digestive system. This is often one people are somewhat familiar with. We'll be going into more detail than you might have learned in your general science classes in school, of course. Digestion means breaking down your food into smaller pieces. Now, this includes both chemical and mechanical digestion. Mechanical is you're physically breaking the food particles into smaller pieces, but the molecules are staying intact. Your main mechanical digestion is chewing. Chemical digestion actually breaks the molecules into smaller pieces. So breaks the proteins into amino acids, polysaccharides into sugars, breaks your triglycerides, the large fats, into fatty acids, and so on. Most of what we'll talk about is how we chemically digest the foods. Mechanical, that's about all we're going to say about it. Organs of the digestive system are classified as alimentary canal and accessory organs. Alimentary canal is also called the digestive tract or GI tract, and that's the tubes that the food actually goes through. It starts with your mouth. Then you've got the pharynx, which is the fancy word for the throat, esophagus, stomach, small and large intestine. Accessory organs, the food doesn't enter them, but they produce important substances for digestion, especially enzymes. And that's your liver, pancreas, and salivary glands. The pancreas is a major organ that gets counted as being part of more than one system. Liver, even though it does produce some hormones and do some other non-digestive things, usually just gets listed as digestive. So let's see which parts you already recognize. What's this pink thing here? Your tongue, a little space above it. Yeah, the mouth or oral cavity is the space. Throat's called the, not yet, up here it's the pharynx. And then once you get past where it splits from your airways, then it's the esophagus. This little sac, stomach, this big red thing. Yeah, this one's the liver, the yellow one. Yeah, the yellow one's the pancreas. Little green sac, gallbladder. Whole bunch of pink coils here. Yeah, this is actually the small intestine. It's a lot longer than the large, but it has a narrower diameter, and that's why we call it small. And so then this larger one, or thicker one going around the edge is the large intestine. Throughout the alimentary canal, most of the wall has 4 layers. Going from inside to out, it's mucosa, submucosa, muscularis, and serosa. The opening, as with blood vessels, is the lumen. On here, if you can see where there's a dividing line in this first cut, that has both the mucosa and submucosa on it. Muscularis is these 2 layers that look like bands going around it, and then serosa is the outer layer. The mucosa has an epithelium that faces the lumen. I'll just put in a little part of it. And then underneath that is connective tissue. So in most places, the epithelium is simple columnar, that single layer of tall cells, but close to the edge, like from mouth to esophagus, and at the other exit, the anus, it is stratified squamous for more protection. The functions of the mucosa are to secrete mucus, which both helps lubricate and protect the digestive tract itself. In some locations, it also produces enzymes. We'll talk about those when we get to the organ. Mucosa absorbs the nutrients. It has capillaries in it that will take them in and pass them to larger vessels deeper in the wall. The mucosa also protects deeper tissues with its epithelium. That includes protecting from pathogens, keeping them from getting through. The submucosa is also connective tissue. But there is actually a division between it and the mucosa. The larger blood vessels are in the submucosa. Do cross sections of them when they're passing through. So all the major transport is happening in the submucosa. With those vessels, it provides the nutrients to the mucosa, and it transports the nutrients that you absorb so that they can get to the whole body. Muscularis is smooth muscle because it's not the heart and it's not voluntary, so therefore it must be smooth. It has two layers. The inner one goes around the tube, circular layer. A bit thicker than that proportionally. The outer one is harder to draw. It's called the longitudinal layer. It goes lengthwise along the digestive tract. These two layers together, when they contract, can move food around and mix it up. That helps to digest it better and move it around from one area to the next and push it against the wall to get absorbed. And then finally, the serosa. This is the thinnest layer. The serosa is the serous membrane, the peritoneum. So it's just really thin, simple squamous. I'll put in a couple of cells here. And the connective tissue that holds it on. The purpose of the serosa is to lubricate the organs in the abdominal cavity so that as they shift with food moving through them, they don't rub against each other. So here's that same picture again on top. So you can see the two directions of the muscularis. And then this is a closer view of a small section. Mucosa is all the way down to here. This little red line is a little bit more muscle that separates mucosa from submucosa. And then all of this red here is muscularis, and just this little pink stripe at the bottom is the serosa. And this is a closer view of just mucosa, where it has some bumps. These were in the song, down through the villi, which look a little cili. They're in the small intestine. You've got the epithelium at the surface, and connective tissue with a capillary bed inside. Questions on the wall? There's two major types of movement or motility in the alimentary canal. They're called segmentation and peristalsis. Segmentation means that it's contracting in multiple locations to divide it into segments. And then in each of those spots, things get shoved together. And then after it relaxes there, it's going to contract at other spaces in between. So segmentation shoves things back and forth to mix them. That helps to mix the food with the enzymes and push the nutrients against the mucosa to get absorbed. Peristalsis starts at one end and works its way down, pushing the food in front of it. Peristalsis is most important in swallowing. You use it when you just want to get the food from one place to another, rather than mixing it up and doing things with it. This illustrates segmentation on top. They've used colors for two different regions of stuff, and combining it into green as the yellow and blue parts get mixed. In peristalsis, we're just squeezing and pushing it along. Questions on the movements? All right, so from here, we're going to start at one end and work our way to the other and look at the accessory organs as we get to them. So the mouth does mechanical digestion and receives the food. You can look at the oral cavity, the space in the mouth, as kind of a box. The lateral walls are the cheeks, plus a little bit of the teeth. That helps push the food around a little bit and holds it in. The anterior wall is the lips and again teeth inside that. The inferior wall is the tongue, which also helps to move the food. The superior wall, the top, is the palate. You have both a hard and soft palate, where the hard has bone. That's partly formed by the maxilla, the same bone that your upper teeth are in. At the back of the palate, there's a little flap that sticks down called the uvula. It's not as obvious as they like to draw it in cartoons. Probably seen something like this when somebody opens their mouth really wide. Sometimes they even get a little tiny character in there using it as a punching bag. It's more of just kind of a little nub coming down. The purpose of the uvula is when you swallow, it moves up and blocks the part of the pharynx that connects to the nose and keeps the food from going up. Then the posterior wall of the oral cavity is open to the pharynx for swallowing. And here's an anterior view into the mouth. So that's more like how the uvula actually looks. And then all of this would be the palate. There's the opening to the pharynx, tongue. You don't see a lot of the cheeks from this view. Any questions on the oral cavity? The teeth we need to take a look at. What we often call baby teeth are also called primary or first teeth or deciduous teeth because they're shed like deciduous trees shed their leaves. They begin to emerge usually sometime in the first year, and then typically by age 4, a person would have all of them. The ones that replace them are the secondary or permanent teeth. Both sets have a couple of different types of teeth that can do different things to the food, like cut, grind, or tear. The types of teeth are incisors, the front teeth. Both the primary and secondary sets have 4 on the top and 4 on the bottom. They are chisel shaped, so from the front you see the flat end. If you looked at a cross section of an incisor, it would come to a point. The incisors are for cutting off pieces of food, like when you bite into a banana or a hot dog or something. Canines or cuspids are the next ones out. 4 total, left and right, top and bottom.